Hi everyone. Today's practice will be a shorter practice, approximately 30 minutes, and we will be focusing on stabilizing and strengthening the muscles in the abdominal area. So I invite you to unroll your mat and grab a yoga block if you have one, and I'll meet you on the mat. We'll begin in a seated pose. Remember to pay attention to the position of your pelvis and start to bring the awareness into the area of the torso. So with that proper position of the pelvis, the spine is feeling elongated and honoring its natural curves. The ears above the shoulders above the hips, and perhaps a slight anterior tilt here. Ensure you're not leaning back into the low back. Start to pay attention to the exhalation and the muscles in the abdominal area as you intentionally exhale. Draw the navel to the back body and pull the pelvic floor up and in. That will be our focus, the exhalation, ensuring that you maintain that stability through the abdominal muscles. Coming onto hands and knees, placing the hands underneath the shoulders, and start to move the body through cow and cat position. So if the wrists are irritating here, walk your hands slightly more forward. Exhale, looking towards the navel. Press the earth away, really getting in touch with the stabilizing muscles in the shoulders and in the length of the torso, and feeling those muscles, especially on the exhalation as you look towards the navel, squeezing and narrowing the waist. Inhale, you let the collarbones open, and exhale, draw back. Walk those knees back so the torso is on the diagonal when you lean forward. So inhale, maybe walk your hands more forward, maybe walk your knees further back. Exhale, draw the sitting bones back to the heels. Inhale, pull the mat as you're leaning forward. So it's like you're trying to draw the mat towards you as you inhale, draw forward. So notice how my hips aren't sinking down below my rib cage. It's just the strength of my torso and the mobility through my shoulders and my hips. Place your hands back underneath your shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. Now extend your left arm forward and your right leg back and really press through that right heel. Hug in the lower belly. Keep reaching through the fingertips and through the back heel, keeping stability in the muscles in the legs and the arms. And while you're here, keeping some energy through the fingers on the ground so you're not dropping into the wrist. Breathing here, breathing and stabilizing. So even as you breathe, you're keeping the lower abdominals and the pelvic floor in and up. Beautiful. Release that down. We will switch sides. So extending left leg back, really reach it out. Right arm forward. That arm is alongside the ear. Thumb pointing up. Left heel reaching back. Toes pointing to the ground. Thigh bone pressing to the sky. Find your breath here while maintaining the stability through your abdominal area. So you don't squeeze so hard that you can't breathe, but you squeeze the abdominals and the pelvic floor enough to stabilize and feel how they're working against that gravitational draw. Beautiful. Release hand, release hips. Come down into child's pose. Always the opportunity to use blocks if you have them, or you're at home using a pillow. Breathe and be. I've got my hands alongside my hips, but yours may remain forward. Transition back into our tabletop position, paying attention to our base, fingers wide, knuckles rooted, bones of the fingers reaching down. Extend your right leg back and then your left leg. Really stretch them out. Get a feeling of pressing the thigh to the sky. Beautiful. And plant those knees back under. Let's extend the right leg back, left arm forward. As you exhale, draw the elbow and the knee together, really squeezing. Inhale, stretch the body long. We'll do this 5 times. Exhale to squeeze. Keep pressing the floor away with that supporting arm. Exhale, squeeze. Maybe look towards the knee. Inhale to get long. Keep stable through the torso. And exhale to squeeze. Inhale long. And then exhale one more time, squeezing in, stretch long before you switch sides. Extending the opposite leg, switching sides here. Beautiful. Pay attention that that heel is strong. Elbows, exhale, squeeze. Inhale, reach long. Exhale, really engaging, stabilizing, pressing the floor away with the supporting arm. Beautiful. A couple more. Inhale. Exhale, abdominal strong. Inhale, length. Exhale, one more squeeze. You've got this. Inhale, long. And exhale, release. And come into child's pose and realign with your breath. Remembering on that exhalation to pull the pelvic floor muscles up and in and the lower abdominals up and in, not 100%, just enough to get in touch with them. Let's bring those hands forward again and the knees back. This time the knees are beyond the hips so that when you come forward, you're slowly lowering down. So let's pause for a moment here. Ensure your knees are back beyond the hips so that when you start to lower down your chest to the floor, your shoulders will still remain over those wrists and the elbows are drawing back towards your rib cage. Really strong here. Slowly lowering, keeping the torso strong. Beautiful. Press back up. We've got 5 of these. Exhale, squeeze elbows into the ribs, lower chest to the floor. And it's like this movement is one long plank lowering down simultaneously. The belly's not dropping, the head's not dropping, and you're keeping the integrity through the upper back and through the hips. They're not dropping either. Beautiful. Now let's come all the way to the floor. Draw those legs closer together and release the arms down alongside the body, palms facing the earth. Now really energize the thighs here. Really energize the thighs. Let 10 toenails stretch down to the floor like you're trying to spread your toenails down along the floor, keeping those legs active. Begin to reach the crown of the head forward and up. Just strengthening through the back, keeping those glutes active, keeping the thighs active, reaching and breathing here. Reaching and breathing, really strong. Creating this idea of length. Beautiful. Release down. Plant your hands underneath your forehead and lift one leg up, reach it back and lower it down and do that on both sides. And then once again, engage your thighs, lifting both toes off the ground as you keep your hips and your head and your elbows on the ground. Reach the toes away. It's not so much about height here. Think about creating this beautiful length through the front of your body as you stretch the legs back, stretching and reaching and feeling the strength being created in your back body area. We keep the glutes working here. Beautiful. Begin to slowly lower the feet down. We'll do this with the arms extended, keeping that same activity through the feet, lifting the legs, and begin to lift the arms. If this is too much, you can lower the legs down. You can do one leg at a time. Always modify to meet your needs. Breathing here. Make sure your shoulders aren't pinching the ears, fingers spreading wide, toes reaching in one direction, fingers reaching in the other from the navel. Really breathing here, present here, feeling and release down. Release the arms alongside the body. Toes flop in, heels flop out, leg muscles relax. Let your head switch sides if you're on one side. Let's begin to extend the arms forward. So really keeping those strong. So you might even want to take a block between your hands to energize the muscles in the shoulders and in the arms, and the legs remain strong as well. So you might even want, if you have 2 blocks, to place a block between your inner thighs. This will keep you stable here. You keep reaching and lengthening, this time with lifting the blocks, if you have them, and finding your back strength again, reaching and lengthening. It's not so much about height, it's about getting long, stabilizing, drawing the pelvic floor in and up, keeping your ears away from your shoulders, just finding that and release down. Remove any props, and then I'll have you roll over onto your back side. I'm going to work my way down here with intention and then flip over. Getting situated on your back, making some adjustments here. I'm just going to scooch down so I'm in the screen. And the ankles are placed underneath the knees. And take a block. I'm going to place it between my thighs. If you don't have a block, be sure to keep your thighs parallel, the outer edges of your feet parallel, and the 10 toes on the ground. Bending your elbows, make fists and let those fists gently point to the sky. They're very gentle fists. You're going to hug your elbows in close to your side body. Inhale, lifting up, and as you exhale and come down, you're going to press into the elbows and feel the abdominal muscles stabilize. Your thighs are staying stable, your hips are staying stable because you're using the block. You're using your glutes here to lift safely, so you're not, just drawing from your back. So energize the glutes as you inhale and lift. Energize the abdominals as you lower, pressing into those elbows. So inhale, glutes engage. Exhale, abdominal muscles stay stable as you press into those upper arms. You can even release the fist, but make sure you're continuing to stabilize the abdominals on that exhalation as you press into the earth with the backs of the arms. Beautiful. This last time, you're going to let your hips stay up, maybe interlace your hands behind your back, continuing to press the arm bones down into the floor, continuing to reach the fingers towards the heels, lengthening into the front of the body. So those abdominal muscles that were used, we're just releasing them. Beautiful. Release the hips down and put that block between your knees now. If you don't have a block, imagine that you do and keep the knees about block distance apart. Draw the lower belly up and in. Draw the pelvic floor up and in. Begin to utilize your abdominal muscles to lift your shoulders off the floor. Imagine you have an orange underneath your chin, so it's not reaching forward up, it's maintaining that beautiful length through your neck, through your spine. And on each exhalation, we're going to do 10 of these. You're slowly and mindfully exhaling and rolling the shoulders up towards the thighs. You can always support the back of your head here, especially if you feel like your neck is doing all the work. Maybe your abdominals aren't quite strong enough yet. That's okay. And if it's too much, you can draw the knees a little closer to the chest. We're going to pulse here for 10, exhaling as you pulse. And release. And let's begin again. Hands just touching the ears. You're not pulling on your head. Use the strength through your abdominals. Slowly, going slower if you need, coming down if you need, pulsing and breathing, making sure the abdominal muscles are intact. And next round, maybe reaching the hands towards the heels. Again, always the option to hold the head. I've given you 3 different options here. You take the one that's best for you. Pulsing and breathing. Beautiful. Beautiful. Nice work. Let's squeeze those knees in towards the chest. Remove the block. Paying attention, even as you lower the feet to the floor, that you can use the stabilizing muscles through your abdominals to do that. So don't just drop them down. Stabilize and lower with intention. Taking your block, moving it out of the way. So we're going to start to move the knees from side to side. Just easing again, some release into the abdominals, into the low back, into those hips. My feet are about hip distance, maybe closer to shoulder distance apart. Use the exhalation to draw the knees to a side. And now planting again the ankles underneath the knees. Bring your hands behind your head, again, not to pull, but to support. Extend your right leg up to the sky, so that right ankle reaches up to the sky directly out of the hip socket, and the other knee is bent. Again, supporting the head with the fingertips. We're going to begin to lift the torso up. The idea of reaching the shoulders up to the sky. So it's not so much about reaching in towards your knee, it's reaching the shoulders, the upper body off the ground. You can reach your fingertips beyond your thigh bone if that is more effective for your needs. Again, very consistently moving. Let's draw that knee into the chest. Release that foot down. Extend the opposite leg up to the sky. Hands supporting the head. Lifting the shoulder blades up towards the sky, not necessarily rolling in. Really feeling into the long muscles in the abdominal area. Always reach the fingertips beyond the thigh bones again. Again, make it yours. And that's it. Release that down. Draw both knees into the chest, keeping the rib cage connected to the earth. Extend the right leg again up to the sky, and then draw the knee into the chest. Draw the left leg down along the ground. So that right knee is stacked above the right hip. I'm going to start to take this on the diagonal using our oblique. So these used to be called yoga bicycles. You can do this with both legs bent. And the action of drawing the shoulder towards the knee, not necessarily the elbow. So finding that rotation as you exhale. Inhale, lengthening the leg, and exhale, squeezing. So making this really fluid here. It's not about speed, it's about control and feeling, and sometimes the slower we move, the more effective the benefits of that movement, because we can really isolate. Option to extend your legs up to the sky, that reduces some of the challenge of it, and that is okay too, right? So you're in your home, you can do whatever you want. It's one of the things I've heard from people is they love that they're in their home and they can let go of any of their inhibitions when they were worried about what other people were thinking. So beautiful. Let's draw both knees into the chest and begin to release, circling those knees around a couple times in both directions. And let's release those feet down. Bring those legs into butterfly pose, soles of the feet together, dropping the knees out wide. I'm going to place a block between my feet. You may or may not. Continuing for something that I believe is called stargazer pose. I'm also going to take a block between my hands, but that's optional as well. The idea of keeping those hands reaching up. So on the exhalation, you'll lift and squeeze. I'm using both my feet and my shoulders off the floor. Make any modifications, remove blocks or use blocks. And if it's too much to lift both the lower body and the upper body, you can release one of those down. And we're going to pulse here. Maybe the hands behind the head to pulse, squeezing, squeezing. Make sure the abdominals are drawing in as you exhale. Pulse, squeeze, and release down. Beautiful. Arms apart, legs apart for a couple of restoring breaths here. Maybe feeling some heat in your abdominal area. Let's bend the knees again. And roll over onto one side and come to seated. We'll work on some Navasana and boat variations, focusing on the area of the abdominals. Oftentimes people do this and it's all coming from the hip flexor. So I want you to pay attention to scooping out the lower belly. And you can place a block between your knees if you wish, and maybe even one between your hands. You can always hold your thighs. Notice that I'm not in a deep posterior tilt here, but I am in a little bit of a rounding. Extend one leg up. Extend the other, reaching through the toes. Maintain that beautiful integrity through your spine. And you're going to rotate and slowly lower, pointing the toes down, letting them touch, and then reaching up. So notice this movement is slow and controlled. I'm big on slow and controlled. I call these sneaky practices. Sometimes we think we have to go 150% all the time, but what happens with that is we lose the integrity of our movements and we're just doing to do instead of doing to be. So really be in your pose. So I'm here, I'm coming into full boat pose. You may wish to do that, lifting both legs off the ground. And then lower the feet down, slowly, slowly lower the upper body down to the ground and release those knees into the chest. I'm going to keep the block between my thighs, take my arms out wide. We're working through the oblique side body abdominal muscles here. Can come into what we call goalpost arms, the elbows directly out of the shoulders, and you're starting to lower your knees to one side using the obliques here. With the block, that helps us to stabilize and remain strong. And you can also place the block between your feet as an option. Just notice which one is more effective for you. So it's like we're kind of rocking across the back of our pelvis with control. Notice the upper body is staying rooted to the ground. Maybe rooted is too strong of a word. So let that movement be fluid. Find a position for your arms that works for you. Slow and controlled. And maybe each time you pass through, your knees lower a little bit more to each side. So working at your own pace here. Beautiful. You're going to let your knees lower to the right and keep the block between your knees or your feet, or you may release it. Extending the left arm out wide. So we want that top hip to be stacked above the bottom hip. So the back of the pelvis is off the floor here. You're leaning onto one side. Stabilize your obliques. Come back to center, and then slowly, you're going to come over to the other side. So I'm just going to shift slightly to the other side of the mat and begin to lower to the left, letting my right hip stack over my left. Feeling the breath in the body, using each exhalation to really detox, to release, to surrender. Stabilize, come back through center. Release the feet down to the ground. And then draw the knees back up into the chest. Extend your feet up to the sky. Again, if you have the block, keep it between your feet. My ankles are directly above my hips, slightly forward. So I definitely don't want your ankles back beyond your hips. So I want your ankles more directly above your hip sockets. Option to bring your arms above your head. And begin to bend your knees. Beautiful. Draw those knees in and then press the feet away. Beautiful. Squeeze the knees in. If your lower back is really arching here, reduce the movement of your legs and focus on stabilizing the muscles in the area of your torso. So as you're pressing away, if you're in the full variation of this, you're pressing on that exhalation, squeezing and pressing like you're pressing on brakes or moving through really thick air. The block helps you maintain that integrity of this movement. Beautiful. Let's bring those knees back in. Remove the block. Plant the feet back down on the floor. Coming into bridge pose. If you prefer to keep the block here between the thighs, by all means do so. It means then that you're not going to let your knees splay open really wide. We definitely don't want those knees out wide. You have an alternative here to take the block and come into a more of a restorative bridge pose. So 3 different heights available for that block. I've got mine on the highest height because I know that's what I need today and it feels good. You can choose whatever height you like. When you're here, even though you're letting the weight of the pelvis be supported by the block, you're not getting lazy with your legs. So those feet still remain parallel. The knees reach out of the hips. So even if I were to come and look at you, the knees, the hips, and the shoulders would be in one line. The arms can release down along the body or stretch and relax above the floor. Always taking care that your neck isn't pressing into the ground here, but there is a sense of opening and breathing here into the front of the body, releasing those abdominal muscles that we strengthened. So just releasing the tension here and releasing the front of the hips. Beautiful. Bring those arms back down. Remove your support. Lower the torso down to the floor. Preparing for another spinal twist. Draw the right knee into the chest. Extend your left leg long on the ground. Left leg is active. Left toes point to the sky. And let that right knee kind of move back and forth in the hip socket. And then draw it across the body so the right hip is stacking over the left. And that right arm is reaching out towards me. Broadening across your chest. Take the breath into the length and the width of your collarbone. Take the breath, that exhalation to release into any areas of tension. If we'll bring that knee back to center, and we'll switch sides. So lengthening the right leg on the ground. Hug the left knee into the chest. Maybe move it a little bit back and forth in the hip socket and then draw it right across the body. So left hip stacking over right. Option if the knee is feeling like it's kind of hanging in midair, you can use any prop you have at home, pillow or a block, or you can use that hand to assist gravity. Never forcing, just asking the body to discover new sensations that feel safe and beneficial. Inhale and exhale, feeling into the benefits of this twist. Releasing tension. Beautiful. Coming back across your pelvis, draw that knee in and release it down to the floor. It is time for our sweet Shavasana. Blankets, socks, props, any way you need. This will be a brief Shavasana. You are welcome to stay here as long as you like. But wherever you are, however long you stay here, I do encourage you to take a deep breath in through the nose and exhale, sigh audibly through the mouth. Saying thank you to your body, thank you to this practice. Maybe even allow the corners of your lips to upturn. Thank you for the opportunity for us to even meet in this way. And thank you to you. Encourage you to speak some kind words to yourself right now, and then surrender into the silence of the moment. And as you begin to come back, you'll find some movement, flexing the knees. You can draw the knees close together, walk the feet to the edges of the mat, little internal hip rotation. Beautiful. And then bring those knees together, roll to one side. Press into a hand. Come to seated. Pay attention to your seat. A moment of gratitude, of reflection, of the benefits received in this practice. Inhale, stretch the arms up. Exhale, bring those hands to heart center. I'm going to find one more spinal twist here. Taking the right leg over the left, if that's available, and then looking over past that right shoulder. Inhale for length and exhale, find that rotation. Being able to breathe in every shape that you're in. Come back through center. Opposite leg is going to cross on top. Left leg on top. And begin to rotate over to the left. Inhale for length. Exhale for the rotation. Rotating back to center. Bringing your hands to your heart. Thank you once again for joining me on the mat. It's an honor and a privilege.